Welcome to the Web Hosting Cat Podcast, brought to you by webhostingcat.com. Here's your host, Michael James.
Hi again, everyone, and welcome. Last year on the podcast, we had on Ryan Flowers, the Support Supervisor at A2 Hosting. Now, those of you familiar with our website probably are aware that A2 Hosting is one of our most recommended web hosts. And because they're constantly releasing new and improved features and services, I thought it'd be a great idea if we had Ryan return to the podcast and give us an update on all of the exciting developments over at A2 this year. I'm very pleased to welcome back to the podcast our friend from A2 Hosting, Ryan Flowers, Support Supervisor. Ryan, it's great to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mike. It's nice to see you again as well.
Just for the folks that may have not caught the last episode, and for those that did, give us a little update on what you've been up to lately and what's going on at A2.
Man, there's a lot going on at A2. We've had a lot of new products launched. This year, since we last talked, we've launched our managed WordPress hosting, and we've also been growing. You know, our customers' success is also our success, and so we've been growing quite a bit. Been getting a lot of new folks in support and sales, and keep making sure we have products that our customers need.
And I know you guys also opened up a new data center recently this year.
We did. We opened up the Phoenix data center, and so that's in fact that's where all of our products are currently being provisioned. Is in Phoenix. So yeah, we also got data centers. Our original data center in Michigan, right. And then we've also got Singapore and Amsterdam.
Are the data centers pretty much constructed the same, or I guess you said most of the products are based in Phoenix now?
Well, all the products we have products in almost every product in every data center. So it's just a matter of which one we're provisioning to. Like we have 2 U.S. data centers, so whether it's Phoenix or Michigan, it's more based on availability and what hardware we have on hand there.
And you also mentioned the managed WordPress hosting product. I know you work as a support supervisor. From a support perspective, is there huge differences between the managed WordPress hosting product and, say, the shared hosting, turbo hosting plans?
You know, it's an interesting question. They're strikingly similar, except for one major thing. Our WordPress managed hosting is specific to WordPress. I suppose it probably could host other things, but it's designed specifically to host WordPress websites. So I wanted to talk just for a second about what makes our managed WordPress different from other managed WordPress, because everybody's doing managed WordPress.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, it's you can't browse on the internet, you can't type in WordPress hosting without ending up with 5 different managed WordPress, and they're all different. So there are some things about our managed WordPress that are pretty different. And a lot of the managed WordPress hosts, they sell their hosting by the number of hits you're going to get on your website. And so they'll say you can get 10,000 hits for this much, or 30,000 for this much, or whatever. Ours does not have that. They'll also have limitations. We don't limit the number of hits you can get. If it'll work within the limitations of the account, then you can run whatever you need to. You'll get as many hits as you want to. You're going to go viral? Fine, go viral. We need a bigger account, but nevertheless, we can make that happen. The next, of course, we have site staging. Everybody's got that. But we don't have any plugin limitations. Some hosts don't allow you to run certain plugins, or they'll have their own, they'll have some reason that you can't use a certain caching or whatever it is. I'm not sure which plugins they don't use, because I've never used another managed host. Why would I?
Like a related plugin posts, I think they don't like, because they say that slows things down.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, and there's a couple of one like we really like WordFence, but we'll tell people, if you use WordFence, turn this thing off, and a certain feature off, unless you're using it, because it's a CPU hog. That goes for all of our hosting, not just managed. But we don't actually block any plugins. And the other thing too is this is one of the nice things. We give you access to WP CLI. If you want to SSH in and use that on the back end of your site, you have access to it. We also, of course, do backups, automatic updates. And here's one of the cool things: a Jetpack personal license. So you get even more of the benefits of Jetpack. Everybody should run that on their site. It's great, but you get even more because you get a personal license for it, and that comes with the hosting at no extra cost.
Cool.
So some pretty neat reasons to have that to get our managed WordPress over some others. The support side's very similar, and our folks are really good at it.
Speaking of the Guru Crew, I know we talked about them last time. Give us a little review of the team, the Guru Crew team, and how they work.
Well, we have people all over the world working for us in support. We have folks in Ecuador and Eastern Europe, of course, a lot of US based. So we have people all over the globe working for us. And the nice thing about having a remote workforce, especially in support, is that you can pick and choose your talent. So you're not stuck to a talent pool the size of the city that you're in. And so we've got some really nice, talented folks who are really good with customers too.
Yeah, and I just want to share with the audience, I was talking to Ryan earlier, I experienced that personally firsthand earlier this year when I upgraded my PHP. I had a little bit of a sticking issue and contacted support. I got a reply from Ryan, and it was fixed immediately. So thank you for that, Ryan.
Yeah, you're
I appreciate
welcome. You're welcome.
Let's see. Do you find the support team focusing on one platform as opposed to another? In other words, is there a lot of work on the dedicated servers or VPS or shared hosting, or is it about equal?
Well, I guess what it comes down to, whether it be A2 or really any host, it's whatever product you sell the most of is where you're going to be focusing. And we have teams that focus primarily on our shared stuff, but the same team does dedicated and VPSs and manage WordPress. And if there's something that's above their level with maybe a dedicated server or something, that'll be escalated to the team that can specialize in that. But we're very broad when it comes to our response. The same team works on pretty much everything. And
now I know A2 also, they do Linux hosting, but they're also just came out with, I think, a new Windows hosting platform.
We do.
Again, from a support perspective, are there major differences that you find handling both of those?
From a customer service perspective, they're exactly the same. It's a hosting product to support, and you're dealing with people. When it comes to the technology side, I think everybody knows Linux and Windows are completely different and really have not that much in common. So yeah, we have folks who specialize in our Windows. If it's a problem that is basic and we can help with, our main guru team will take care of it. If it's something that's specialized in Windows only, we have folks that are specialized in Windows only.
Now, going back to the A2 shared hosting platform, which is what I use, is there a limited number of accounts that you guys put on each server? Do you have account isolation on the shared servers?
Yes. One thing that we don't want to do is overload a server to the point where it can't perform its own basic duties. You don't want to. Overloading a server is bad for everybody. And so we simply don't do it. We watch for that really carefully to make sure that you don't have the problems that arise. Everybody's site becomes slow or even inoperable when a server is overloaded. So our first step there is to prevent that problem from happening is simply not overloading the servers. The second thing we do is we run a software which allows us to, I'm not going to say containerize because it's not quite exactly containerization, but we can limit the resources that each account gets. So when you buy an account at A2, you're getting a certain amount of CPU resources, you're getting a certain amount of memory, and a certain number of processes. So that way you can't have one account on a server take over the entire server. And I call it, it's like the bad neighbor problem, or I like to call it the smelly guy on the bus, right? So, one guy gets on the bus and now everybody's suffering, right? So to keep the smelly guy off the bus, we make sure we give him his own room. So that way you don't end up with a server overloaded because of one website. That way everybody gets to perform well, and that's what we focus on is speed. So if one account is having problems, we'll prevent that from causing problems for other people, and then at the same time we'll help that person or that customer to get their account under control.
Awesome. And another great thing I like that A2 has a quadruple redundant network. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe how about some of the security aspects that you guys go through?
Sure. So when it comes to the networking side, these are all computers. Things break, networks go down. And so we've got redundancy there. There have been instances where we'll see a blip happen and we'll have a few people say, hey, my site's down, but it's back up in less than 5 minutes because a route changed, because a provider dropped, or there was some other issue. And so we have redundancy there, and we've made use of it. Got to have that. When it comes to security, we do have our security. We use Patchman. So security is a big deal, and especially when it comes to WordPress, we've got articles in our knowledge base that are aimed at the WordPress beginner to help them to keep their site secure. which really isn't that hard. It's just a few steps that maybe aren't obvious to the absolute beginner.
Mm-hmm. And now a couple of other things I wanted to mention. Website staging, I know you guys have on both the shared and the managed WordPress hosting.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
awesome.
Site staging. So that makes it really nice so that folks can work on their site without being worried about breaking it.
And these days, everybody wants a website fast, quick, and easy. And I know you guys also came out with a website builder.
Yes, and so we're working with a provider that makes that possible, and is a few clicks, and you're off to the races with the website, and it's point and click.
Yeah. As I've talked to you guys a lot, I use A2 hosting. I think it's the best myself. I have the turbo hosting plan. The performance is awesome. We've talked about the support, excellent. And one thing we're talking about the data centers, and I know on the A2 website there's also a page where you can actually go in and test the download and upload speeds for each data center. Correct?
Right.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep, we have kind of like a speedtest.net type of thing, where you can test your own web speed, connection speed of your own line. We have one where you can do that from our servers directly.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So I recommend you check that out, the A2 hosting website. Also, check out our site. We have a complete detailed review of A2 hosting and their hosting products. Listen, Ryan, appreciate it as always. Great seeing you again, and hope to talk to you soon, man.
Yeah, sounds good.
Ryan Flowers, everyone. As always, it's a great pleasure having Ryan on the podcast, and I want to thank him again for taking some time out of his busy schedule to visit with us. That's going to do it for this edition of the podcast. For more information on any of the features or services we talked about with Ryan, check out our detailed reviews on A2 hosting at webhostingcat.com. And until next time, this is Michael James wishing you the very best for all of your website endeavors. Thanks for listening, and take care.
You've been listening to the Web Hosting Cat podcast. The preceding program is copyrighted 2018 by Tux Cat Media.